Do you want to know how to save your first $1,000? Well, I've got money saving tips and the story of how I saved my first $1,000 coming up. What's up everyone, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Sean. I'm a project manager documenting my journey to financial freedom. So if you're interested in personal finance or personal development topics, please consider subscribing to this channel. So you want to save your first $1,000, which is admirable. It's always admirable to try and squeeze a little bit extra out of what you have, especially in this current situation. So good for you. I'm going to gear this video to maybe a little bit of a younger audience, mostly because my story of saving my first $1,000 happened when I was about 16 years old. Nevertheless, some of these principles still apply, so here we go. The equation really is simple. Make sure that you have more income coming in than expenses going out. If you can make that happen, that is how you save money. What I'll do in this video is look at each side of that, income and expenses, and I'll give you guys some tips and share the story of how I was able to save $1,000. Okay, so let's talk about income. So this is the money coming in. What can you do to increase that? I made my first $1,000 when I was still working part-time jobs. So I started out as a grocery store, and then I would keep looking around and applying for other part-time jobs that would pay me a slightly higher hourly wage. The idea here was that I could pay for some of my own entertainment, like going to movies or renting video games. But that was how I directly impacted the income coming in from my jobs. I would apply to other jobs. Other things to think about are whether you can work overtime hours or if you can take on shifts from some of the other employees to make some extra cash. Another thing you can think about is there anything around the house that you don't use anymore that's just collecting dust that is still worth something to someone else? If you got something like an old PlayStation or a bike that you no longer use, put that stuff on Craigslist and get a few bucks for it. It's better than just sitting in your cabinet and not doing anything. This is especially profitable if you can sell some of your brother's or sister's stuff without them knowing. Are you able to take on a side hustle? Maybe you can tutor someone younger than you, walk the neighbor's dogs. I used to babysit my neighbor's kids to make some extra pocket money. And when I was really young, I used to have a paper route. Although, I'll be honest with you guys, don't do a paper route. It's not worth the trouble. They pay you like nothing. Now, I know that having a car is probably a key to doing a lot of the side hustles that are popular today. I didn't have a car when I was 16, so maybe I'll talk more about car ownership in another video, maybe a video about making your first $10,000. But I will touch on a bit more about cars in the expenses section of this video. However, if you guys want some ideas for side hustles, I'll leave a link to a side hustle video right here. Alright guys, so before we get into the expenses section, please remember that if you're liking this video, hit that like button. And if you do want me to make a video about making your first $10,000, hit the like, subscribe button, and that notification bell so that you know when new videos are coming out. Alright, so next, let's look at expenses. What are you spending your money on every month? Now let's say you get a $5 coffee or a smoothie every day when you go to work or you go to school. Well, that actually costs you $1,300 a year. If you treat yourself just once a week instead of every day, that will save you $1,000 right there. Or of course, you can make your own smoothie or coffee and take that with you, save the money, and you can still have it every day. Now, what about your living situation? Well, when I made my first $1,000, I was still living at home. I'd encourage anyone to milk that as long as possible, especially if you're still in school or just graduating. You can save up money so quickly just by living at home. And I guess I may as well thank you, mom and dad, for letting me live at home so I could save money. Now, I should also talk about cars. When I was 16, I drove my parents' '94 Camry. It wasn't exactly a chick magnet, however, I only had to pay my share of the gas and insurance, so I saved a ton on car payments, depreciation, all that stuff. So I didn't have wheels, but I did manage to save a bunch of money. Speaking of gas, if you drive to work or you take the car to work, think about arranging a carpool. That'll cut your gas bill in half. Okay, now let's talk about clothes. This one I'll just say to make sure you're buying only what you need. I know for me it was really hard trying to resist the latest trends and, trying to impress the ladies with the latest kicks in the window of the Foot Locker.
And there I stood, a new man in a new pair of Air Jets.
But think of it this way. Would you rather spend $150 on shoes or have $150 in cash? $150 is a nice chunk of that $1,000. Now for entertainment, well, when I saved my first $1,000, I wasn't really old enough to go to bars and go out drinking, but I definitely spent a lot of money on going to movies. Getting into a movie now and getting popcorn and a drink, that's an easy $35-40 for one person. If I started doing that every other weekend instead of every weekend, I would have saved about $910 a year. Other than that, I would say my expenses were maybe the odd time going to a restaurant and paying for my cell phone. Your cell phone, you can't really do too much. Your plan is usually fixed, but you can always negotiate something lower. Restaurants, I wouldn't say were a huge expense, but are something to keep an eye on, especially if you go often. Even getting fast food the odd time will save you some cash, but restaurants are the most expensive way to eat for sure. Alright guys, the journey to being financially free starts with your first $1,000. Heck, really your first $100. It's important to save because you need to gather money to buy assets, those things that go on to make you even more money. And even more important is getting into the habit of finding these little ways to save so that when you move on, you make more money, you can save more money, invest in more assets which make you more money. Hopefully that makes sense. So I would say enjoy the journey. If you do feel discouraged or tempted at times, just think that at the end you're gonna have $1,000. And not a lot of people can say that. Well guys, that's all I have for you today. If you've enjoyed this video, again, please remember to hit the like button. Until next time, have a great week, spread the wealth, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Can you take on a side hustle? Maybe tutoring someone? Can you take on a side hustle, maybe tutoring someone younger than you? And if you do want me to make a video about making your first 10,000